Welcome to The Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to dig into today's topic with you because honestly, it completely flips everything we thought we knew about cybersecurity right on its head. I mean, for decades, keeping hackers out was all about building a taller wall, right? Or installing a thicker vault door. But what happens when the hacker doesn't break in, but actually gets hired by your HR department? Okay, let's just dive right into this. Today, we're looking at a massive structural shift being driven by AI-assisted impersonation, remote hiring, and, frankly, really messy employee exits. Identity, proving exactly who is sitting on the other side of that screen, has officially become the new security perimeter.
I want to anchor us right off the bat with a staggering number, 471 million. According to the Identity Theft Resource Center, or ITRC, and reported by CNBC, U.S. organizations issued over 471 million victim notices tied to data compromises in just the first half of 2026. Just the first half. We've already blown completely past the 297.5 million notices issued during the entirety of 2025. Now, to be totally fair here, one massive incident with the education platform Canvas accounted for 275 million of those. So yeah, it's concentrated. But the broader trend, it is absolutely worsening. Total reported incidents are way up, too. We're dealing with a truly astronomical scale of exposed data. But prepare for a little whiplash here, 21. Now, compared to 471 million, that looks completely microscopic. But I promise you, it is infinitely more dangerous. There were 21 malicious insider incidents in the first half of 2026. Why is that so scary? Because there were only 3 in all of 2025. That is a massive, massive spike in a very short amount of time. The attacks aren't just coming from the outside anymore, folks. They are quite literally coming from inside the house. So, this brings us to the absolutely crucial question. How on earth are attackers just walking right through the front door? If companies are out there spending billions on firewalls and endpoint security, how do we suddenly have this explosion of insider incidents? It's kind of the central mystery of our detective story today. And the answer is that attackers are bypassing those traditional, expensive defenses entirely. They aren't picking the lock. They're basically convincing you to just hand over the keys. Think of a company like a giant apartment building. The old cyber defense model was really just about putting a massive, heavy lock on the front door. But the new cyber defense reality, well, that expensive lock is completely useless if an intruder convincingly dresses up as the maintenance worker, asks the front desk for the master key, and just walks right in during broad daylight. The answer isn't a heavier door. The answer is continuously verifying the worker, fiercely limiting which rooms their key can actually open, and deactivating that key the very exact second their shift ends. To really grasp what's happening, we gotta redefine what a malicious insider actually is. It's a trusted, or at least apparently trusted, user who deliberately abuses authorized access. Historically, we thought of this as, disgruntled Bob from accounting who gets mad and steals some client lists. But in this new context, an apparently trusted user might not be a traditional human employee at all. It could easily be an infiltrator who entirely faked their way into the job.
Let's actually walk through how this builds into a real-world nightmare step by step. The FBI has actually flagged this exact pattern involving North Korean remote IT worker schemes. Step 1, the operatives use an AI-generated resume to craft the absolute perfect candidate profile. Step 2, they use stolen identities and deepfake technology to actually pass the live video interview. Step 3, the completely fooled U.S. company grants them legitimate remote credentials. And Step 4, they're in. They earn money for the regime, they steal data, or they set up elaborate extortion plots. It is a stunning weaponization of the modern remote hiring process.
Now, I just mentioned deepfakes a second ago. Synthetic audio, video, or imagery designed to flawlessly imitate a real person. Why does this matter so much? Because AI drastically, and I mean drastically, lowers the cost and effort required to pull off these heists. 2 years ago, creating a real-time, highly believable video and audio persona for a 45-minute technical interview, that would have required Hollywood-level special effects. Today, AI does it on a standard laptop. And look, we're seeing the brutal results of this in the data. IBM research covering March 2025 through February 2026 shows a full 25%. Literally 1 in 4 breaches is now AI-enabled. That's a 56% increase from the prior year. IBM's Cost of a Data Breach report specifically calls out deepfake impersonation and AI-enabled malware as the main drivers here. AI isn't some fringe tool anymore. It is now firmly part of the standard attack stack. But let's pivot for a second, because the danger isn't just the fake hires. It's also real, actual employees. ITRC President James Lee links a significant part of this massive jump in insider incidents to, and I quote, disgruntled, laid-off workers taking information on the way out. When a company does a rushed layoff without immediate, same-day access removal, they are basically turning corporate offboarding into a disastrous data loss event. Human Resources Administration is literally frontline cybersecurity now.
So what is the consumer cost of all this chaos? It's a really frustrating story, honestly. Only 24% of consumer notices in the first half of 2026 actually explained how the breach happened. To give you some context on why that's awful, back in 2021, that number was 93%. So people are receiving hundreds of millions of warning emails, but getting far less actual information to judge their personal danger. And that stolen identity data? It can be reused for account takeovers, loan fraud, and highly targeted scams for years down the line. Consumers are the ones paying the long-term price for these corporate security failures.
Now, what's super interesting is how the business landscape is shifting in response to this. We have some really clear exposed losers and likely winners. The losers? Employers with rushed remote hiring, broad administrator privileges, or delayed access removal, especially in fields like education, healthcare, and finance, where data is incredibly sensitive. But the winners? Identity verification providers, privileged access management or PAM vendors, really any security teams that can finally merge HR, legal, and IT data together. The strategic value is flowing directly to anyone who can confidently verify remote workers without grinding the actual business to a halt. I do want to clear up a massive misconception right here. The takeaway from this explainer is absolutely not that remote workers are inherently suspicious. Not at all. The reality is that the risk comes almost entirely from weak verification and excessive access controls. Blaming remote work is totally missing the forest for the trees. Treating every legitimate work-from-home employee like a criminal with invasive surveillance, that just ruins morale and generates a ton of useless noise.
Instead, the core solution we need to talk about is least privilege. This simply means giving each person, or AI system for that matter, only the absolute minimum access they need for a specific task. Look, buying yet another detection tool isn't going to help if your fundamental identity governance is broken. Businesses absolutely must shift towards systems that continuously verify identity throughout the day, strictly enforce those minimal privileges, and instantly revoke them the second the job is done or the employee leaves.
As we start to wrap up, here are the vital signals you're going to want to watch for the rest of the year. First off, keep an eye on the full year 2026 ITRC incident count, specifically that share attributed to insiders. Second, watch corporate spending. You're going to hear so much more about identity governance and privileged access reviews. Third, watch for new remote worker verification standards popping up. And finally, on the consumer side, watch to see if states or Congress finally step in to standardize breach notices so we actually get told what happened to our data. Now, before we get to our final thought, just a really quick reminder, this explainer is strictly for educational and informational purposes only. It is not financial, investment, legal, tax, cybersecurity, or identity theft advice. Always consult qualified professionals for decisions specific to your own organization's circumstances. And I want to leave you with this somewhat provocative thought. Think about your own organization's hiring, onboarding, and offboarding processes. Are you still just checking the locks on the front door? Or did your HR department inadvertently just interview, hire, and hand a master key straight over to an AI? Identity is the new perimeter, folks. Verify it, limit it, and remove access fast. Thank you so much for exploring this massive paradigm shift with me today. Stay curious, stay secure, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.